Hello, it's Cass. Today, I'm finally getting around to some much needed gardening. I'm cleaning up the octoplanter, or is it hexy? I don't know, I failed math. Anyway, it looks like the great dust bowl of the century. Honestly, I don't know how this sedum made it through the winter, with it being mostly in the negatives, but it keeps coming back. For the fairy garden, I really wanted to do an all moss theme, but it's just way too hot here, and the heat has been killing off all the moss I have, so that isn't going to happen. I could use the sedum, but it's going to overtake this planter, much like it's done with all the others. Or I could use the little patch of Scottish moss that I found, but it's pretty happy here being in the shade, and I don't want to transplant it and for it to just kind of melt in the sun. So, with moss out of the way, I'm deciding on plants I have never used before for a fairy garden. Now, you're not going to see the tags, so I will put them up on the screen. First, I have Alyssum. This plant produces tiny little flowers and adds a nice color pop. I went ahead and bought white and purple variants. In this household, we love herbs, so any chance I can fit one or two in, we shall do. This is spicy orange thyme. It loves growing between rocks, and I thought it looked really cute. Next, we have another herb. This one is called Corsican mint. If you squish it or pat it down, it smells like lemon with a hint of mint, like a mojito. And my personal favorite for all chicken dishes, the caraway thyme. It grows like a weed. Anyway, the last plant we have is one that a lot of fairy gardens have. It's the creeping wire vine. I've never used it before, but I'm using it this year. Super tiny leaves, and it loves to crawl on anything it can grasp. I figured it would look pretty cute, and when it decides to get frostbitten, because I live in a cold climate place, it's bound to happen. I can use it for some miniature bushes or use the twigs for some Halloween scape things that I have planned. I always find a use for something. I have a lot of junk in this planter, but what I noticed was a lot of small patches of cushion moss that miraculously were still hanging on a root. I must save these from the sun. I'm gonna have to transplant them around, but I'm definitely going to be saving these. On the other hand, the Scottish moss that was growing in here did not make it. That's that large brown patch. So I'm gonna just break that up and re-add it back into the soil that we have here for some nutrients and stuff. But on the other hand, surprised still that the sedum made it through. It was caked with foots of snow, and it still made it out unscathed. This thing is a champion. I also found some roots and a couple pieces of old wood dowels and beads. I don't remember adding those last year, but I must have because they were buried in there pretty deep. I also moved around the soil because it was pretty dry and it was really like padded down, so I wanted to get that all aerated, I guess. Once I broke up the soil, I watered it. I added peat moss off camera, and here I am showing you the stuff I used. I added it to help retain some moisture since we are kinda in a drought. Then I just stuck both hands in there and worked it all in. These plants need all the moisture they can get right now. If I ended up planting them in dry soil and then watered on top of it in this heat, the water droplets on top of the plants will act like a magnifying glass, and then that's the best description I can make, and then it'll just burn the leaves, so I don't want that to happen. So until it gets dark out, the moisture added in this soil will definitely help. I started with the creeping wire vine since it's the biggest plant in this setup. You can tell I really like playing in dirt. What can I say? I'm a kid at heart. I haven't used creeping vine before. I think it would look really cool growing up a wall, or even after it's no longer living, it would look great as an accent embellishment for a miniature landscape. So many ideas. I should write these down. Does anyone else like this? This is so satisfying when you unpot a plant and the planter comes off ever so perfectly. We gotta watch that again. It's so satisfying every time. Here's the rest of my plan. I want to make a path leading up to a house using both variants of alyssum, alternating in color. For some reason, the purple variant will produce flowers first, so the path will always have some color this way. I'm also putting in the caraway thyme opposite of the creeping vine to balance each side of the planter and to break up the alyssum. Realization check. So I already know I rock back and forth as a stim, but I just realized I also rock my teeth back and forth on my bottom lip. If it weren't for this side profile recording and speeding this up, I would have never known this about myself. It looks like I'm talking, but I'm really not. I replayed this so many times trying to figure out the audio, and there wasn't any audio. In order to define my path and make a flat space for a house, I needed to pat down the soil. I used a flat river rock since I have tons of those just laying around everywhere I look. This one is really old and I think I collected it when I was in grade school. I almost forgot to mention that I ended up using the Corsican mint up in the front. I am not sure how well it will do because the back of the card says part sun and shade, and this balcony gets too much sun. I also decided against planting the spicy orange thyme because it would have been too cramped in the planter. I will end up using this in a different project coming up. It's time to decorate our fairy garden. First and foremost, we need a fairy, hence, a fairy garden. She's a pretty small one though, so we're gonna have to put her up in front so we can keep an eye on her. We don't want her getting lost in all these bushes, right? And of course, more rocks. That's just me. Gotta put more rocks in there. And I also found a marble, so we're gonna put that marble in there too. It's probably gonna get lost, but at least it's there. And for the path, I found some orchid bark laying around in one of my leftover bags of soil. Since I don't need orchid bark for any plants right now, I'm going to use the pieces I picked out to create my pathway. At first, I was going to use some stones, but if we ever do get rain, the stones are going to get buried in the soil. So yeah, and the orchid bark is a bit more flat too, so I think it'll work out fairly well. We're going in an aerial view. Over. Let's pretend I'm a drone, okay? For a second. Just for a second, okay? If that fairy was real, she would be flying so fast. How scary would that be? A human. Huger than life, man. The camera. Shadowing over your home. Oh my gosh. Now that's a nightmare. I really hope tonight I don't have a nightmare like that, because I'm a very creative person and I would definitely have a nightmare just by thinking about that. Ugh, creepy, 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 creepy. I found this cabin house at one of my craft stores and just had to have it. It's a log cabin. I love log cabins. However, it's one color, a brown. So I'm just going to paint some life and bring some charm to it. It looks way better than the one I was trying to build anyway. I don't know what I was thinking. It must have been really late and, excuses, right? I collected pine cones to use as shingles and out popped this very scared spooter, so that ended that adventure. It was a jump scare for me. So, yeah, but looking back at it, it was very funny. I won't show you that little clip because it might trigger some people who have arachnophobia. It definitely did for me because it was like a jump scare every time I had to look at it, which is why I didn't use the footage at all. Yeah, I was in shock, and my hubby had to come over and rescue that poor little spider and rehome it. And thankfully, he did. He went and grabbed it and went and put it outside on our balcony. So maybe in a few weeks we'll have little tiny baby spooters coming out and everything. It was just a jump scare, and I didn't want to like kill it or anything. So, it just everything worked out. I just didn't want to use the footage or anything. So I just went out and I found this nice log cabin. So we're gonna use that today. I mean, if you want me to put the footage up there, I'll upload it separately and name it Spider Scare and put like a warning in front of it. I mean, it's not really bad, but for people who have arachnophobia, it's something. it's something. This is when I started accentuating the stones on the chimney. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft recently, and that may or may not have prolonged the 3 weeks it took me to get this one video edited. Yeah, so Minecraft. I built myself a log cabin base with a fairly decent sized chimney, and so I was channeling my inner Minecraft self with the colors. I ended up using a dark green between the cracks of the chimney rocks, and that really made it pop in a good way. And that's because in my Minecraft world, my log cabin chimney has the moss stones. I made moss stones and stuff, so yeah, I was like, oh, I gotta put some moss stuff on it, and it ended up working out and looking really good. Okay, so I'm using a dry brush technique on this piece. I use this technique a lot, and I also use my fingers a lot to smudge the paint if I ended up getting too much color in one spot. My husband used to ask me how I knew when to do this, but I really don't have a good answer. It's just intuition, a feeling that something needs to change for the better. So I'm dry brushing some green on this cabin to add a moss color to it. The best way I can describe the look I'm going for is when we get rain. I love how it makes everything green around you look more vibrant. For example, I didn't know we had moss growing on our balcony until after we had a heavy rain and things weren't quite dry yet. I want the cabin to look old and damp, bringing out the moss that has grown over time on the siding and roof. Once everything was painted, I decided to bring out my dry moss collection to add more of a dimension and charm to the cabin. The painted moss made it look good, but it was missing something. I have 3 different substrates that I'm going to be using. I would have loved to use my fake grass on it, but I couldn't find my bag. I think I may have used it all up and just forgot to buy more. Anyway, I have dry brown sphagnum, some green sphagnum, if I can, word correctly. You can buy all this at your local craft store, usually by the flower section, and sometimes if they have a miniature garden section or one of those aisles where you can buy landscape stuff for like train setups and everything. You can find it there too. I also have some leftover coconut core that I saved from one of my spider enclosures. I don't own any spiders right now, but I used to, and I had a jumping spider named Houdini, and she helped me get over a lot of my arachnophobia, and also the Dark Den channel on YouTube. And that is why when I mentioned earlier that I had a jump scare with a spider and looking back at it, it was really funny, that is why, is because I owned a spider and for some reason I got scared. You know, all that hard work and I got scared. Anyway, I've mentioned the Dark Den channel before on my channel, but I just thought that I'd mention him again because I absolutely love that channel and it really helped curb my fears quite a bit. So I'm very thankful, and you know, free promotion for them. So yeah. We have a lot of jumping spiders on our balcony. They love hiding in our little siding on the side. And actually, just like the other week, I had one. I talk to the spiders outside too. I am the weirdest person ever. I literally will sit there and talk to the spiders out on my balcony. And I saw this jumping spider, okay? And it looked a lot like Houdini. And I told it to be careful. It was over by my pepper plant, and I was like, just be careful. I know you want to jump on me. I know you're curious. They are so curious. And what did it do? I didn't know this, but it jumped on me. And I brought it back in the house, okay? And it got stuck between my window and my screen. And so it took me like 2 days to coax it out of there. And I fed it one of my little worms. I have like super worms. And I fed it a super worm, and I happened to catch it using the Dark Den channel's like what he uses and like his method. So I did that, and I was able to transport the spider to safety back outside to the siding where it belongs. And I told it never to do it again. So here's how it looks after I put the moss on it. And you know what? While editing this clip, specifically this clip, it helped me come to the realization that perhaps I should invest in a headcam mount. You know, that way I could show more of my detailed work. I mean, it's worth a shot, right? I wonder if there are any other YouTube folks out there with one and how it works for them. And maybe I should bring this up in the YouTube Reddit chats. Yeah, there's a Reddit for YouTubers. It is a good resource and another way to meet some new people with similar interests, like making videos. I highly recommend. Even if you don't post anything, it's still a nice resource to have in your pocket. Anyway, I think this piece turned out looking pretty nice. Let's see how it all comes together outside in its new home. You're probably noticing something missing. The Corsican mint. It didn't make it through the heat wave. Even after watering it at night, it still decided to sizzle up in the heat. Instead, I made a small deck for the 2 fairy chairs and brought them up in the front. I couldn't find the recording though of this little build, so we shall just appreciate its existence, I guess. As you can see, the plants really bushed out and are looking healthy now that it rained. And there's even tiny purple flowers blooming from the alyssum. I think I may have to do some trimming though later so the path can be seen more easily. The thing is, with herbs, all the cuttings can be used so there's no waste. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and stick around for more creative content. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you want, even subscribe. Have a great day and a great rest of your week, and keep hydrated and take care until next time. See ya!